In 1958, doctors told a pregnant woman that her baby would have a disability. They pushed her to stop the pregnancy. She said no. Years later, that baby grew up to be the world's most famous blind singer with a high voice, but being famous had its downsides. In 2005, Andrea Bocelli drank wine at his vineyard in Tuscany and ended up in the hospital thinking someone had poisoned him. Officials said it was not real, but the scary feeling stayed with him. Then in 2020, things he said during the lockdown caused something even worse. He got death threats that were so bad he left the country. A family Christmas dinner in 2023 that showed music, hurts no one knew were there. This is the story they didn't tell you. Andrea Bocelli was born on September 22, 1958 in a small place called Lajatico. It was a quiet country area where life still went slow after the war and money was music, often short. His parents ran a family farm that covered 120 hectares. It made wine, music, sold machines, and needed hard work from everybody. Electricity was not something people could count on every day. Most families lived by farming the land, and the Bocelli's music were the same. Even as a little kid, Andrea was part of that daily life. Harvest times, long days, and meals together were just normal. Before he was even born, his life was already in question. Doctors found out he had glaucoma from birth and told his mother that her baby would probably be blind. They pushed her to end the pregnancy. Eddie said no. She trusted something stronger than fear. Years later, she would tell Andrea that it was the right thing to do, and those words stuck with him. That choice became the quiet base of his strength. He grew up knowing he was picked to live even when things looked bad. His early years were full of hospitals, long visits, odd treatments. Doctors tried everything to save his eyesight, even ways that now seem crazy. They put leeches on his eyes to try to lower the pressure. Even with all that, Andrea kept some sight until he was 12. During those hospital nights, his mother played classical music records next to his bed. Music made him calm. It pushed the pain away. Slowly, sound became his safe spot. By the time music was 3, his eyesight was already bad enough to make easy things dangerous. Walking in the vineyards was risky. Running was tough, but his hearing got better. He started copying bird calls, animal noises, and tunes he heard at home. Family get-togethers were full of Tuscan folk songs, and those sounds went deep inside him. When his sight pulled him away from the outside world, his mind filled the gap. He told stories to himself. He pictured places. Music and imagination mixed together. His younger brother, Alberto, was born 2 years later, and together they grew up around olive trees and music grapevines. Meals happened at rough wooden tables made from farm wood. There was laughter, joking, and often Andrea would climb on a bench and sing like it was a stage. Even then, something in him wanted to perform. At 6 years old in 1964, he started piano lessons. He could not use sight, so he learned by touch. Fingers remembered keys, ears remembered patterns. His mother kept playing records, and Andrea followed the music, notes by feel. By 8, he added flute and saxophone. At school events, some kids made fun of him. His eyesight made him different. Still, he kept on. In 1972, when he was just 14, he joined a singing contest in Viareggio and won with O Sole Mio. That moment showed him what music could do. It could lift him above everything else. Then came the moment that changed it all. In 1970, during a soccer game, a ball hit his face really hard. The hit caused bleeding in his brain. His leftover sight was gone right away. Doctors tried again. Nothing helped. At 12 years old, Andrea became fully blind. Darkness came suddenly. He had to learn the piano again just by touch. He learned Braille. Each step music was painful, but music became brighter than ever. It was the only thing that still felt complete. School got harder. Some kids bullied him. They laughed. They whispered. At night, when the house was quiet, Andrea sat at the family piano and made up simple tunes in secret. Those hours became his safe place. Pain turned into sound. Anger turned into notes. He learned to read music in Braille and kept getting better at instruments. Music, what started as a way to survive, slowly became his reason to live. In the music 1970s, he went to high school near Pisa. He told someone his essays, used Braille books, fell in love with books and stories. Sometimes he skipped music, class just to walk the hills of Tuscany, learning poems by heart while dealing with feeling sad. In 1980, he started at the University of Pisa to study law. He took the train and paid his way by teaching other blind students. He worked harder than most, not to show music others, but to show himself. In the early 1980s, he sang at piano bars at night. The places were rough, full of smoke, crowds were noisy, tips were small. He sang songs like My Way and used the money to live and study. Those nights made his voice stronger. They taught him how to keep a crowd quiet, how to feel what people wanted. In 1987, he met Enrica Music Senzatti at one of those piano bars. She was 17. He was older, people talked, but she listened. She helped him read song words, music, told him about the world he could not see. They got married in June 1992. She stood by him during the hardest years, and even after their marriage ended in 2002, she stayed in his life because of their 2 sons. Andrea got his law degree in 1986 and worked a little as a defense lawyer. It was steady, respected, but it felt empty. During a case about a street musician, something clicked. He saw that music was not just part of his life, it was his life. He left law and picked the unknown path. In 1992, everything changed. He was 34, blind, singing at piano bars in Florence when Zucchero heard him. Zucchero was looking for a voice for a demo of Miserere. Music, Andrea sang it once. That was enough. The demo was rough, recorded fast. Andrea followed spoken directions because he could not read the sheet music. Music was scared. Enrica read aloud the nice words meant for him, and he found the strength to keep going. When the demo got to Luciano Pavarotti, the answer music shocked everyone. He said the singer was so good that he was not needed anymore. Miserere became huge across Europe. Radio stations played it music all the time. Andrea went from hiding to being seen. On December 11, 1993, he made his opera debut as Macduff in Macbeth at Teatro Verdi in Pisa. Nerves almost broke him. He forgot his lines during the show. Instead music of stopping, he used his voice more. The audience stood up and cheered. In that moment, he knew his voice could carry him through anything. Later that year, he toured Europe with Zucchero. In Milan, he sang Miserere for 50,000 people. After that night, he never went back to piano bars. In February 1994, he joined the Sanremo Music Festival as a nobody. He sang Il Mare Como della Sera and won first place with the highest scores ever. During practice, he tripped over cables and hurt his knee. He sang through the pain. The feeling amazed everyone. In November 1995, his first album came out. It sold 300,000 copies in weeks. Millions more followed around the world. That same year, he sang at the White House. In 1996, he recorded Time to Say Goodbye with Sarah Brightman. The song broke records in Europe and sold over 12 million copies worldwide. A blind boy from rural Tuscany had changed music forever. In 1998, Andrea Bocelli stepped onto the stage at La Scala in Milan as Rodolfo in Puccini's La Bohème, walking into one of the toughest rooms in opera. Some critics said his high voice sounded too much like pop for strict old-school fans' music, and wrote that his way did not match what they wanted from a La Scala first show. Yet, while the reviews fought, the ticket sales told another story. Every show sold out. The run brought in about €2 million, which was a big number for opera back then. People who never thought about going to La Scala suddenly bought tickets, pulled in by his record snorts, and by the story of a blind music singer with a voice that went right to feelings. His being there quietly pushed against the wall that always split classical music and pop charts. And the success proved that a crossover singer could fill a famous opera house easily. That speed kept going into 1999 when he put out the album Sogno. This record became a big turning point in his career. It had the prayer, the duet with Celine Dion that would stay with him for years. The song got him 2 Grammy nominations, one for Best New Music Artist and one for Best Pop Teamwork. The Best New Artist nod shocked the music world because it was the first time in 38 years that a classical singer was in that group. Sogno reached the top of the Billboard classical chart and stayed there for 22 weeks straight, which set a record for that type. The Prayer won a Golden Globe and got an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Song. Through that one album and that one duet, Bocelli stepped way outside the classical world and into homes everywhere. And it became clear that he was no longer just an opera singer. He was now a real crossover star. As his fame got bigger, the pushback got bigger too. In 2000, he sang the main role in Werther at London's Covent Garden. This time, the bad reviews were strong. Critics Music called the show not real opera and said he was making the art weaker to please regular crowds. Some even said that his blindness stopped him from using the stage's visual parts and limited his acting. But Bocelli answered those attacks by saying that not seeing did not make his shows weaker. It made them sharper. He said that blindness had trained his ear and his feeling heart, and that he lived inside music, the music in a way that did not need sight. The fight spilled music into newspapers and TV, and fans started fighting with critics about what opera should be. The storm around Werther showed a big split between people who wanted opera to stay old and closed, and those who thought it should open up more. While that argument went on in theaters and reviews, he quietly got ready for another kind of work. In 2002, he put out Sacred Arias, an album partly recorded in the Vatican's Santa Maria Sopra Minerva Basilica. The church had a natural echo that wrapped around his voice and gave the recordings a depth that no studio could match. Sacred Arias went on to sell more than 5 million copies worldwide and became the best-selling classical album by one artist in history. It hit the top of classical charts in 20 countries and won the Brit Award for Album of the Year. Among its songs' music were versions of pieces like Ave Maria recorded inside the old chapel, and listeners could feel the space in the sound itself. With the Vatican's OK and the album's big reach, sacred music moved out of church walls and into the hands of normal listeners around the world. Even with that win, he kept trying new sounds. In 2004, he put out the album Amore, which had a flamenco-style version of Besame Mucho. The mix of Italian voice and Spanish beats surprised many classical fans. Some called it brave and new. Others said it was too much like pop for sale. But the song slowly became one of his most liked pieces. That wanting to try new things took him to the biggest stages. In 2006, he stood at the closing ceremony of the Turin Winter Olympics and sang Nessun Dorma and Because We Believe. The show reached about 3 billion viewers around the world, making it one of the biggest crowds ever for a classical singer. In that moment, he was not just an Italian singer on a home stage. He was a symbol of Italian music for the whole planet. Behind these big public times, there was a strict private schedule. Bocelli often says that an opera singer must take care of the voice the way an athlete takes care of the body before a big game. Before big recordings and shows, he does not drink alcohol. He eats very little. He rests music as much as he can. He has also talked openly about not having music, sex before important dates because he believes that every bit of energy should be saved for music, singing. In interviews, he explained that you cannot do too much of anything if you want to sing at the top level. This strict way over years helped him keep his sound strong and powerful and helped his career last many decades. By the time these stories got known, he had already sold more than 80 million records, and many fans were shocked to learn how strict his life was behind the warm love feel of his songs. His reach around the world kept growing. In July 2010, He was the main act at the Celebrate Africa concert at the Music Coca-Cola Dome in Johannesburg during the FIFA World Cup. Around 100,000 fans filled the place and heard him sing pieces like Time to Say Goodbye, which made parts of the crowd cry and turned into a big talk point worldwide. The concert was shown internationally and helped his album My Christmas sell more than 3 million copies in the United States alone, even with lots of other holiday music out. Once again, he showed that classical and crossover music could not only live, but win in places usually for pop stars and rock bands. That same mix of bravery and risk showed up again years later in a very different way. During the hard lockdowns in Italy in 2020, he walked into an empty Milan Music Cathedral on Easter Sunday for a solo concert called Music for Hope. The city outside was quiet, but millions watched the stream from home. The event raised about €4 million for hospitals fighting the virus. Some people thanked him for giving comfort during a sad spring. Others felt uneasy and said the concert seemed wrong while the country had so many deaths. Bocelli later said that some reactions made him feel hurt and offended, but he also said he felt proud to have helped hospitals. The event showed how hard it could be to mix art, sadness, and public health in a hurt country. While the world watched his public life, his private world changed again and again. He had married Enrica Senzatti in 1992 after 3 years of dating. In 1995, their first son, Amos, was born by emergency C-section after big problems during pregnancy. Bocelli canceled some concerts to stay with her, seeing early how his job could clash with family life. Their second son, Matteo, came in 1997. By the year 2000, he was doing close to 200 concerts every year. Enrica spent long evenings alone making quiet dinners that sometimes stayed cold because he did not get home. The distance grew slowly, more in feelings than in miles. In 2002, they split up. The divorce music stayed calm outside. There Ray no big fights, and Enrica later pointed more to feeling apart than to cheating. They kept living in nearby houses in Tuscany, and Bocelli has said music, to have paid around €500,000 a year in support so their sons could be close to both parents. That same year, another part started. In 2002, at the age of 44, he met 18-year-old Veronica Birdi at a party. She would later become both his partner and his manager. They clicked fast over music and their shared Tuscan home. He sang Acai di Fata to her that night, and she later said that the air changed as he sang as if the room got small to just them two. They moved in together that very night, a choice that started talk of a secret love in the news because of their 25-year music age difference. Despite the talk, their connection got stronger. Veronica gave music birth to their daughter Virginia in 2012, and the little girl soon started singing with her dad on stage. On March 21, 2014, Andrea and Veronica got married at the Sanctuary of Montenero in Italy. Through all the attention, they have always said that age has never been the real issue. For them, shared beliefs and a love for their land and music mattered more than the years. Matteo, their middle child, walked his own slow path to the stage. Born in 1997, he grew up under the shadow of his dad's fame. He started singing as a kid, but he was too shy to sing for Andrea, choosing to sing instead for his mom. He learned piano at age 6 and studied music. Yet he waited to jump into opera or pop because he was scared of being compared to his dad on every note. That changed in 2018. At 18 years old, he and Andrea put out the duet Fall on Me. The song spread fast online and marked Matteo's big world start. Andrea talked openly about his hopes for his son and warned him about the dangers of fame. He told him to stay humble, to remember that clapping does not last. Since then, Matteo has sung at big events, including the wedding of Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker, and has put out his own albums, slowly making a career that is tied to his dad, yet clearly his own. Their duets, music, mixing classical feel and modern pop have become favorites for fans around the world. Under all of these later wins sits a story that started before Andrea's birth. In 1958, when his mother Eddie was pregnant, she was in the hospital with appendicitis. Doctors told her that her baby might be born with a disability and suggested she end the pregnancy. Eddie, a strong Catholic, said no. Andrea was born with glaucoma from birth and later lost his sight fully at the age of 12. In 2018, he talked publicly about his mom's choice and used the story to support pro-life ideas in Italy. Many listeners' music were touched and saw the tale as proof of his mom's bravery. At the same time, women's music, groups and activists were upset with him for using a very personal story to take a side on a hard topic. They said that he ignored women's choices and the tough facts around abortion. For Bocelli, though, this story is at the heart of who he is. It shapes the way he talks about music, life, faith, and the stage, and he goes back to it often in shows and talks. His body has been tested in clear ways, too. In July 2010, while riding a horse in Tuscany just days before a big concert, he fell off and broke ribs. He had to go to the hospital. Doctors told him to rest. Yet he chose to do the show anyway. He wrapped his chest tight to hide the hurt and walked on stage still hurting. Reporters wrote about his strong will and the stress the show put on his already hard body. For many fans, the picture of music, a blind singer standing in pain, not canceling, became a sign of his strong promise to music and to the people who paid to hear him. Life on his Tuscan vineyard brought its own odd stories. After losing his sight, Bocelli got a very strong sense of smell, which made him good at family wine tastings. In 2005, during one such tasting, he said he smelled a weird music, scent in a bottle, and thought something was wrong. The situation got big, and he ended up in the hospital after drinking wine he thought might have been poisoned by jealous people. Officials later said that it was a hoax, but the news spread fast and added another part to his story. The tale showed the stress that can come with fame in a tough world like Italian wine, and it hinted at how a strong sense, while helpful, can also feed fear and doubt. The year 2020 brought more trouble. In addition to the Milan Cathedral concert, Bocelli made public comments about lockdowns in Italy that made people mad. He talked about personal freedom and said that music's strict rules were too much, which many people took as saying to ignore health rules. His social media posts and words led to strong criticism. Some said he was pushing actions that could hurt lives. The anger grew so big that he reportedly got death threats music and moved for a while to his home in the United States for safety. The episode showed once again how hard it can be for famous people to talk about politics, health, and freedom during a world crisis, and how fast love can turn to anger. Even inside his own home, there were problems. His son Amos, the oldest, stepped away from music for a while. Watching Matteo become a rising pop star brought up feelings of rivalry and distance. Amos turned instead to business, picking a path without mics or stages. This made a quiet gap in the family. They still met, still talked, but something stayed unsaid between the brothers. In 2023, during a private Christmas dinner in Tuscany, that gap finally started to heal. The family got together and the two brothers talked honestly about pressure, expectations, and their different lives. That night became a big change. News of their getting close again spread among music fans, and Andrea later shared words about the need for family togetherness, reminding people that even a famous family has to work through jealousy, pride, and hurt. By 2025, his story had grown so big that it needed its own movie. In September of that year, the documentary Andrea Bocelli, Because I Believe, showed first at the Toronto International Film Festival. People saw never-before-seen videos, including scenes of the soccer accident at age 12 that has often been tied to the final loss of his sight. along with close clips from his Grammy times and early days in Tuscany. The film made about $5 million worldwide in its first weekend and became the top-earning music documentary of 2025 up to then. It had talks with family, co-workers, and old friends, and mixed those voices with old video from his young days. The timing fit the 30th anniversary of his music career and turned the film into both a party and a look back at the hard things he had beaten. Critics liked its real feelings and the way it caught not only the great parts of his show's music, but also the price of getting to that level. That same year brought another long-awaited work win. At the Grammy Awards on February 8, 2025 in Los Angeles, Bocelli won Best Opera Solo Performance for La Bohème aria recorded during his time in Napa Valley. The performance had been recorded live in front of 15,000 fans and had his usual mix of skill and feeling. He won against big names music, such as Placido Domingo and Joyce Di Donato, which made the win even bigger. After many past nominations, this was his first solo Grammy music in that type. He was 67 years old. His thank you speech touched the crowd as he thanked his family, music, his co-workers, and the fans who had helped him for 3 decades. His tie with world sports kept growing. On December 5, 2025, he performed music, Nessun Dorma at the FIFA World Cup 2026 final draw in Washington, D.C., sharing the event with pop star Robbie Williams. Around 2,000 fans watched inside the arena, and more than 1 billion viewers saw the show around the world as the draw showed the groups for the bigger 48-team tournament. It was his 3rd time at a FIFA event after earlier World Cup ceremonies in 2006 and 2010. Organizers picked him again because of his way to connect with people from many countries and cultures. During the event, FIFA announced a gift of $1 million to the Andrea Bocelli Foundation to help music programs for kids. Social media went wild, clips of his performance spread fast, and his being there turned a simple draw music into a shared special moment. A more close project came shortly before that. In November 2025, he put out a family Christmas single called The Greatest Gift with Matteo and Virginia. They recorded it in a Tuscan vineyard, and the song had a solo by Virginia at only 10 years old, hinting that the Bocelli music family will not stop with her brothers. The video got 3 million views on YouTube in its first week music, and became one of the fastest-growing Christmas songs that year. Critics' music liked the warm words and the mix of the 3 voices. Behind the scenes, videos showed the family laughing and having fun among the vines, which made the project feel like letting people into their private world. A limited vinyl copy sold out in less than 48 hours. Music and money made went to the foundation's work for music teaching in poor areas. All of these parts come together in his money and helping life. By 2025, at age 67, Andrea Bocelli's net worth music went over $100 million, made from over 90 million records sold, world tour, and things like his fancy wine brand. Yet, he has often said his foundation is the part of his story that means the most to him. In 2025, the Andrea Bocelli Foundation helped around 1,000 children living in very bad poverty music, and reached about 5,000 people through its work in school and the arts. One of its best efforts that year was starting Braille music programs in Haiti, giving blind students new ways to learn and play. Bocelli personally went to music. Some of these project places include a school where kids played his songs using Braille notes. In October 2025, he got the United Nations Global Humanitarian Award for this work. The Foundation's yearly report for that year showed a 30% jump in money compared to 2024. Music, proof that its help was still growing.